the top 5 murdered franchises, according to Nerdrotic. So, I've watched Nerdrotic for a while now. He has some good takes. I agree with some things he says. I don't agree with everything he says. But hey, we can have different opinions. I hope. It's a sad thing we fail to learn nowadays. People can't have different opinions like that without, saying all these sorts of nonsensical things that I won't elaborate on. Saying bigots, racist, sexist, all those lines. But I'm just like, what have we come to put this kind of stuff and not have different opinions? I've dealt with one person like that for about 10 years now. If you don't know who I'm talking about, if you've seen this channel, that's Gabe. He's like the one person that always has different, hot takes, different opinion, taste and stuff compared to other people. And that's what people like Nerdrotic and a few other YouTubers who he's buddies with do. So, but I'm curious to see what he says by these top 5 murdered franchises. I might have Star Wars is definitely going to be on here, judging from the thumbnail, but excuse me. Hey, but I'm curious to see what he says from other murdered franchises, because to be honest, in the past several years, a lot of these franchises have been, unfortunately, that has happened. That has happened. And it's kind of sad how some of this stuff that we like has kind of come to this because of it, unfortunately. How our culture's changed. Sometimes for the worse, sometimes not for the better. In any case, for this, I'm gonna shut up and actually go on to watching the video and see what his takes are. Let's roll.
Nerdrotic.com.
Decades come and go, but entertainment is forever, or so
Yes.
they thought. Hollywood used to be where dreams come true, but now it's where dreams go to die. Welcome
Unfortunately,
to Nerdrotic,
also
and
true.
This is the top 5 murdered franchises.
Yeah, tickets are wearing it. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
For this list, we're going to go over the top 5 blockbuster genre franchises, in most cases that brought generations of fans together of all makes, shapes, and sizes. Franchises that have been vandalized, subverted, and perverted by corporate culture in a never-ending quest to turn art into content. This wasn't an easy list to put together, but we broke it down to this. What franchise committed the worst crimes against imagination? And we start with number 5, The Terminator.
Come with me if you want to live.
Don't get me started on Terminator. It's like, I feel like after Genesis, from what that was, they should have just stopped immediately. Dark Fate did not need to happen. That was just basically a middle finger to Legacy and to the classic fans. I mean, classic's not the right term. I mean, just the old fans of the franchise, I'd say. I hated Dark Fate. I still think Genesis. I like for Genesis over Dark Fate, even though you would say it'd be better. But just saying. Yep.
Some may argue that the Terminator was never a franchise and only a vehicle for Arnold.
No, I'd say it's a franchise, considering from the films, spin-off films, and that one weird TV series they had on Fox. At that point, that'd be a franchise.
Written by James Cameron for 2 films, and you may be right. After 2 groundbreaking films, it's been nothing but mediocre.
Talk to the hand.
I still prefer this over Dark Fate 2.
Third film with Terminator Rise of the Machines. An interesting attempt with Terminator Salvation.
Which was weird.
God-awful Terminator Genesis. Genesis.
Fight me.
That is a very immature response.
Still prefer this over Dark Fate.
This brings us to the franchise killer Terminator Dark Fate, which on paper looked like it could have been a hit. Tim Miller, the director of Deadpool, was on board. Arnold Schwarzenegger was coming back. The triumphant return of Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Plus, this film
would have been great. Would have been
than just a blessing from James Cameron. He wrote the story with the script co-written by Dark Knight's David S. Goyer. What could possibly have gone wrong? It starts with the relatively recent phenomenon of alienating half your audience by calling them misogynists, followed by the promise of a feminist Terminator film. Then the unfortunate release of the first image of the film, which turned into an instant meme. And then things got worse. The film was released. Terminator Dark Fate was just a soft reboot, meaning they just remade Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 and race and gender swapped everyone, while bringing in an old familiar character generally to abuse as nostalgia bait. Edward Furlong returned only to be de-aged and killed in the first minutes of the film, only to be quickly replaced by Natalia
to be
Reyes,
fingered.
the new
Basically giving us the
diverse
finger.
leader of the resistance. We have a new part human, part Terminator protector, Justin Bieber, a brand new
How does that even
Terminator,
work,
the Pee-wee
though?
1000.
I never understood
Linda
that.
Hamilton returns as the bitter anti-natalist Sarah Connor.
They ruined her.
Drink till I black out.
They ruined her
So
so
this
much in
is
that film too.
mouthwash? Toothbrush? This your breath is not pretty.
Arnold Schwarzenegger returns as the T-800 Terminator named Carl, who's in a platonic relationship and a stand-in for Schrodinger's rapist.
I do drapes.
Legion replaces Skynet and somehow got all their patents. Mix in identity politics, intersectional feminist themes, immigration allegories, domestic abuse allegories, and you have a dumpster fire at the box office, a dead franchise, and a humbled director.
Yeah.
Won't be back.
Number 4.
There goes our
Game
beloved
of
Terminator.
Thrones.
Oof! I will say for the record right now, I have never really watched Game of Thrones. I've only saw like a few episodes only, but just never watched it. Saying that right now, so I just know everyone hated the series finale. Everyone hated it so badly. I don't know the reason why, but I'm about to find out probably right now from this.
And winter is coming.
Yeah, so how did Game of Thrones die in the most
After the
shittiest way
box office and
possible?
award-winning success of Lord of the Rings, proving that fantasy could be financially viable, HBO decided to take a chance on the unfinished A Song of Ice and Fire book series by George R.R. Martin, setting out to subvert the tropes of Tolkien. High fantasy with subverted expectations, random character deaths, political intrigue, ice zombies, dragons, boobs, and lots of sex.
See you at sundown.
Yeah.
Close the door!
It wasn't long before HBO
That
had a
was funny.
cultural phenomenon on their hands. Game of Thrones looked unstoppable. Lots of Emmys, watch parties around the globe.
I was surprised how popular it was,
1,000
honestly.
YouTube channels spawned to theorize and react, and it became the most watched and
Yeah.
illegally downloaded show on the planet. Pivotal moments like the death of Ned Stark, the Red Wedding, the Purple Wedding. What
Yeah.
could possibly go
Joffrey.
wrong?
I know that because everyone hated Joffrey too.
Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Uh-huh. What's up?
Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
It doesn't help when the author of the story your series is based on can either take part in, rewrite, and sometimes write 28 books during the 8 years your series ran, but couldn't produce the 2 books needed to finish it properly. Along with blogging
Ouch.
about the Giants, blogging about movies, blog about entertainment, blogging about the election, blogging about not finishing The Winds of Winter, buying a movie theater, buying a train. Then there's David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, who are now collectively called by the fandom Dumb and Dumber, after passing the source material and characters getting plot armor where they never had it before. The introduction of the Westeros Express.
What on earth?
Despite the flaws of seasons 5 through 7, Dan and Dave were on top of the world. They had Netflix deals. They had deals with Disney Star Wars. People started to speculate that Dan and Dave had no idea what they were doing, something they would later admit to, and that became pretty clear with Game of Thrones Season 8. A season filled with everything except the story.
Final
Male
season.
characters who survived the series only to needlessly commit suicide, like Jaime Lannister and the Hound. Jon Snow back from the dead as the lost Targaryen and possibly the prophesized Azor Ahai, and a King of the North reduced to a manservant, the show clearly being affected by the Me Too Time's Up era in Hollywood. Mary Sue Arya, who was able to wipe out the male line of the phrase and kill the mighty Night King in his first stop in Westeros. In an episode that nobody could see. Cersei drinking wine in front of a window for 3 seasons. Dumb Tyrion spurting out murderous Daenerys. And a season that ends in complete disaster.
Best season ever!
I feel like she was really sarcastic when she was saying that. I get the feel. I could just tell. Man, if that's the case, oof. Talk about the way to just ruin it at the end of last season, man. Yeah.
What followed was a petition to remake Season 8, fan blaming by the actors, Dan and Dave losing their jobs at Disney Star Wars, George R. R. Martin releasing himself, HBO canceling
Can't blame him there.
$1 prequel, and an HBO desperate to recapture the magic, which will be impossible. Good luck, House of the Dragon.
Ouch. All this from Season 8. Ooh. Man. Way to go, guys. Way to ruin Game of Thrones for its final season, and ruin all its future projects and the people's careers, except for for the big actors in that show.
Number 3, Star Trek.
Ooh, okay, Star Trek. I'm not too familiar with. I've watched only the 2000 movies. Well, I've watched that. I've watched I forget the second one that came out, 2013. And Beyond. I liked Beyond. And I did like the 2007 Star Trek, so I like those ones. Don't remember too much of the second one, though. But other than that, that's the only things I've watched related to Star Trek. I didn't hear so many good things about the new show, though, so I think I might just about to hear it from here. So here we are.
Long and prosper.
Excuse me.
Gene Roddenberry's utopian vision of the future is one of the longest-running franchises of all time, showing that humanity can get over its differences, seek out new life and civilizations, and boldly go where no one has gone before. From iconic characters like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy to Picard, Data, and Riker, Janeway, Seven of Nine, and Chakotay, to Captain Sisko, Lieutenant Dax, and Worf, a series that set out to be a Western in space turned out to be one of the most groundbreaking television shows of all time and the pinnacle of science fiction. So after 5 series, an animated series, and 10 films, it was time to take a little hiatus. After spending some time in development,
I didn't even know there were that many films for Star Trek.
So what puts this show on our list? Well, when it was time to bring the show back, the only logical decision was to give it to somebody who never liked Star Trek.
J.J. Abrams.
As someone who was never a fan of Star Trek,
I did not know that.
And Jar Jar Abrams, who we like to call around these parts the destroyer of franchises, wasted no time in trying to make Star Trek something it wasn't. Star Wars. And in the first film, he actually managed to pull that off, but it was something of a novelty. After a second financially successful film that was despised by most of the fandom.
Oh yeah, Into the Darkness. Now I remember. That's why I forgot about it. I just remember it being it was shit.
Flopped, and then went ahead and tried to develop a 4th film. In the
I still think Beyond wasn't that bad though. I didn't think it was that bad.
Meantime, all hope was not lost because Star Trek was returning to television under the tutelage of former Star Trek writer Brian Fuller, who was quickly usurped by the lesser talented version of Jar Jar Abrams, Alex Kurtzman.
Ooh. He's one of those guys. I learned from these guys not to say these during interviews.
And at this time, the rights were split. The film rights belonged to Paramount, the television rights belonged to CBS, who decided to start their tenure by suing fans, and some issues with borrowing without permission from other intellectual properties. Now only known as Kurtzman Trek, Star Trek used to be a series that inspired astronauts, scientists, and doctors, and now it only inspires what's left of the fandom to seek psychiatric help. The once optimistic vision of the future has turned into a dystopian soap opera run by a foul-mouthed, incompetent matriarchy.
Shut the f*** up.
Alex Kurtzman's production company's secret hideout goes through showrunners like Spinal Tap goes through drummers. There's Star Trek Discovery featuring Spock's secret foster sister and Space Jesus Michael Burnham, a foster sister Spock couldn't mention because she was classified. An insufferable...
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Sure. This is the problem when you try to put these things in entertainment, and it never works.
insufferable Mary Sue time-traveling Iron Woman, supported by a forgettable cast that looked like it walked out of a toothpaste commercial. Season 2 featured an emotionally damaged and dyslexic Paul McCartney Spock, who sings.
Wait, hold up.
Emotionally damaged and dyslexic Paul McCartney Spock, who's...
That's supposed to be Spock? I mean... ugh. They really deserve Spock in that show, Dan. Ugh.
Sings.
Short in matters, vegetable, animal, and mineral. You are the very model of a modern Major General.
But that's not the worst of it.
Ouch.
Then there's the last Jedi of Star Trek, Picard. It's one thing to commit character assassination with the third actor who played Spock. It's a whole different situation to commit character suicide by the person who made Captain Picard iconic, Patrick Stewart.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Killing legacy characters, that always turns out well.
Shut the f up.
An incompetent and xenophobic federation, a brand new crew where every single character has a tortured past. Initially, there were to be no returning Next Generation characters at the behest of Patrick Stewart, the executive producer. Horrific writing.
That was a good thing.
She's a girl. I don't think you understand just how much it sucked to be your kid.
Terrible ship designs, a very
Acting
awkward
was
and
terrible.
inappropriate love story between Data
Shot
and Picard,
fired.
a girl who's the key to everything, and by the end Picard dies and is replaced by an exact robot copy of himself. And what you have is one of the worst television series ever produced. There's also Star Trek Lower Decks, which is just Star Trek Rick and Morty, and a repurposed
yeah, I can
show
see by the
called
animation.
Prodigy. And what used to be introspective, groundbreaking television has turned into torture, horror, and violence, and lots of crying. The worst possible thing that can happen to Star Trek is for Alex Kurtzman to make more of it. And ultimately what you have is Star Trek made by people who don't know anything about Star Trek for people who don't like Star Trek.
I don't understand what you did.
I hate it when there's people like that who write these things. And then just... that's always the thing I hate about when it comes to these entertainment and franchises. People who don't like it or don't really know anything about it tend to ruin it. J.J. Abrams showed exactly that. I think I used to like his directing at first, but then I realized how much of terrible things he does for franchises and entertainment.
Number 2, Star...
Yeah, I mean, we were about to see this on here. I'm surprised it's not number 1, though. Now my question is, if Star Wars is number 2, what is number 1? Curious. But we know he's going to jump into the Disney Star Wars in a little bit, but I'll get to my comments when we get to that.
The Force will be with you. Always.
From the genius mind of George Lucas, Star Wars would become a worldwide phenomenon
I
in
just
the late
love
70s
doing
and
that.
early 80s. Han, Luke, Leia, and Darth Vader would all become household names. While this series did not invent the Hollywood blockbuster, it would solidify it as Hollywood's future and maximize what would be the
and one of the
most
biggest,
lucrative
nerdiest
parts of
things in
Hollywood
geek
blockbuster,
culture.
merchandising, followed by a successful prequel trilogy that was not universally loved at the time but would capture the imagination of another generation.
Yeah, I mean, it gave us the Clone Wars. That was good. I remember watching the animated Clone Wars series during my during my years in school. It was fun to watch. It was great too.
Then the unthinkable happened. George Lucas sold Star Wars in October of 2012, and the franchise that survived so much found something it couldn't: Disney.
Ouch. Yep. The red and gray clouds over
Star
it.
Wars Episode 7 in theaters worldwide in 2015.
Initially, things looked more than promising. Prior to the sale, George Lucas not only had treatments for Episodes 7, 8, and 9, he had Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford under contract. And the final piece to the puzzle, hiring prolific producer and longtime Steven Spielberg associate Kathleen Kennedy to head Lucasfilm.
That was the worst decision ever. That was the worst decision ever.
What could possibly go wrong?
A
The
lot.
answer is almost everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That, killing the
Kathleen
Lexi
Kennedy
characters.
started her reign by shutting down LucasArts and canceling the wildly popular Extended Universe. She followed that decision up by hiring Jar Jar Abrams to direct The Force Awakens hot off the heels.
Now, to be honest, though, from the Disney Star Wars trilogy we got, I actually liked The Force Awakens. I did. I liked it for what it is. Then we got The Last Jedi, which I liked that first, but then thinking about it over time, I was thinking, that movie was actually shit. Holy fuck. God, that was such a middle finger. And then we got The Rise of Skywalker, it was less shittier than The Last Jedi, I'd say, but had a few of its many problems, but yeah, still liked it better than Last Jedi, but man, talking about ruining the trilogy from that.
Heels of destroying the Star Trek franchise. Things looked good in the beginning,
Yeah.
but this ended up being fool's gold. And the architects of Star Wars destruction, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, Jar Jar Abrams, and Rian Johnson got to work and produced the abomination known as the Disney trilogy.
The only good one was The Force Awakens. I'm just saying that right now. The only good one was The Force Awakens. Last Jedi was shit. Rise of Skywalker was less shittier. And it left so many things untold.
The Force Awakens was a very successful, soft reboot of A New Hope. Made the redeemed hero of generations Han Solo a regressive bad dad playing Dude, Where's My Millennium Falcon, only to walk into the lightsaber of his emo son. Followed by the worst sequel of all time, The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson.
Who ruined the franchise.
Set out to subvert our expectations, which he absolutely did. We expected a good film,
in the worst way possible.
A dumpster fire, completing the vandalization of the true female hero of Star Wars, Princess Leia, who was demoted into an incompetent General Mary Poppins and utterly obliterated.
That's also true. When I think about it, she really didn't do much in the new trilogy. She didn't really have much compared to, in the original. There was a lot more she did in it than she did in the Disney films.
The true hero of generations, Luke Skywalker, who bravely defeated
they ruined his character
only
so
to be
much
turned
in that
into
film.
a creepy, abusive uncle who quit on the Jedi.
That's one of the reasons I hated the Disney Star Wars too. They basically, it was mainly Last Jedi. They just basically ruined Luke Skywalker's character to a point where even Mark Hamill was saying this is not Luke Skywalker.
And the galaxy moved to an island, drank out of a boob, got his butt kicked by a Mary Sue version of himself, and then OD'd on the Force.
Yeah, which still made no sense to me either. How he just died like
the third
that.
And final film, The Rise of Skywalker, almost completing the assassination of all the classic characters by bringing back Palpatine and destroying the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. Both
also
Kathleen
that
Kennedy
too.
And Jar Jar Abrams came up with the genius idea of not putting Han, Luke, and Leia together in a single scene, committing the worst crime against imagination and the biggest mistake in cinematic history. Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy, in their infinite wisdom, decided to replace these classic characters with Mary Sue Luke Skywalker with teats, a poor man's Han Solo generic character person, and Finn, quite frankly, the most...
Oh my god, they did Finn. They did such a disservice to Finn in the film. Like, after the first film, they did so much disservice to him. Because at least there was something... Because in The Force Awakens, I think, they were having something going for him. And The Last Jedi happened. And then Rise of Skywalker and just... Such a mess was his character. I genuinely feel bad for the actor who played him, because I think there were some things he said too about it. I forgot what it was.
Intriguing character who they turned into a clown and shrunk on the poster.
Oh wait,
let
me see that.
Quite frankly, the most intriguing character who they turned into a clown and shrunk on the poster for China.
He was so interesting in the first film, and then they ruined it.
Wanted to forget or did forget.
Oh
in and around the abysmal Disney trilogy.
I wanted to, but too bad I have too much good memory for that.
Stop making mistakes. George Lucas's treatments for episodes 7, 8, and 9 were trashed, admitting they never had a plan.
There's nothing more important than knowing where you're going.
JJ pitched me the film and was like, oh yeah, Palpatine's granddaddy, and I was like, awesome. And then 2 weeks later he was like, oh, we're not sure. So it kept changing.
Turned the Force female, fired directors,
still dumb.
canceled films, Lucasfilm employees attacking fans, Lucasfilm directors attacking fans.
Oh yeah, that's always
fan
fun.
Movement known as the Fandom Menace, hiring Harvey Weinstein's former assistant Leslie Headland, snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory by firing Gina Carano and creating a second fan movement known.
Welcome to the
As the
rebellion,
rebellion.
which even split the divided the fan base even more. I'm one of those people that was like, it was stupid to fire her. Very. Compared to other things. And then people want to be playing double standards all the time for when it comes to other stars.
And ruining little baby Yoda and digital Luke Skywalker with the Book of Boba Fett. Not to say
I need it.
Hey, Kathleen Kennedy isn't thorough. There are still 2 more characters she can destroy, Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So of course you renew the contract of the woman who was gifted the greatest single blockbuster franchise of all time that could have lived forever, slapped an expiration date on it, and turned it into a category on a fledgling streaming service. Before we get to our worst victim
now,
of franchise
from that,
aside,
I'm surprised. I'm very curious on who number 1's gonna be.
honorable mentions.
Let's
James
see.
Bond. whose
Oh,
ultimate
yes.
sacrifice
No
of the
Time to
50s
Die.
Era in Hollywood was walking into a missile. The Matrix. 1 good film out of 4 does not make you a
Matrix.
franchise. The Predator,
Oh, shit.
which barely missed our list. Alien.
I'm surprised
Just
about
like
that.
with Terminator 2, sometimes
I'm also
the
surprised about
franchise
those.
can be co-murdered by one of its creators. He-Man, who was brought down with lies.
Fucking He-Man. Thanks a lot, Kevin Smith. That was one of the most worst things you ever did in your career.
Betrayal and a bait and switch.
Yes, I hated that.
Ghostbusters, the true innovator of making the fandom.
Okay, I didn't mind the female Ghostbusters actually from 2016. I didn't think it was that bad compared to other things we've gotten. I mean, I didn't hate it per se, which is shocking to say. I didn't hate it. There were some aspects of the film I actually liked, but I didn't hate it. It wasn't too bad. It was just, if they wanted to, gender swap the characters, they didn't do it right. There could have been better ways of doing it, but they didn't.
Your enemy, who only...
The only thing is, I feel like Afterlife kind of did redeem the Ghostbusters franchise a bit, which is why I think he put it as an honorable mention and not, not on this list, which is good. Because I watched Afterlife, and I liked it. I actually respected the legacy a lot.
List because it belongs to the one studio who finally admitted that they made a mistake.
Sony! Yeah, that's crazy, right? And they respected legacy. Again. Alright, what's number 1? Let's find out what's number... Oh, shit. I can already tell what's number 1.
There is one franchise that is worse off than Disney Star Wars.
Yep.
Number 1.
Doctor Who. Oh, now it makes sense to me. And now it all makes sense. I was like, well, what could possibly be number one over Star Wars? And I was like, Doctor Who. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I can totally see it now.
Of war. When you fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die. You don't know whose children are going to scream and burn. How many hearts will be broken? How many lives shattered? How much blood will spill until everybody does what they were always going to have to do from the very beginning? Sit down and talk!
A franchise spanning nearly 60 years woven into the DNA of an entire country. A television show that is quintessentially British and a worldwide sensation. Featuring the single most unique titular character in pop culture history, the emblematic Doctor.
Yeah,
with
the
a
Doctor.
somewhat malleable continuity for over 50 years, with one of the greatest television themes of all time.
Yeah. It's catchy. Very catchy. Yeah. Talking about looking through all the past Doctors.
After its initial 26 seasons, it went on hiatus until 1996 with a failed pilot episode on Fox. Then in 2005, it received one of the greatest revivals of a television show of all time, and is the longest running science fiction show of all time. And after finally breaking through in America, reached peak popularity on its 50th anniversary. Just as
the day of the
there are
Doctor.
fixed points in time,
Which was really
in
great.
Doctor Who, there are fixed points in its canon. The Doctor is a Time Lord from Gallifrey who pilots the TARDIS, a character who regenerated 12 times, but it was that unlucky 13th that finally did it in.
Oh yes, Jodie Whittaker. I watched like the first 2 episodes actually with her. First one wasn't bad. I actually kind of liked it a little. Second one, I like it. And then it progressed, and then I know he's gonna talk about the Timeless Child, and that's what killed him for me. But ouch.
After years of rumors that weren't taken very seriously, they finally did it. The BBC, Piers Wenger, and new showrunner Chris Chibnall took the well-established male character that was the Doctor for 55 plus years and transitioned him into a woman. In the summer of 2017, they introduced the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, famously known as Dr. Karen.
Ouch. Oh, that was a funny transition. I'll give him that. I'll definitely give that was a funny transition.
And for a minute, it looked like it might have worked. The first
it would have.
Jodie Whittaker's premiere episode was one of the highest rated in the show's history.
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately,
wasn't bad.
It was all downhill from there. The first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall were given every chance to succeed, moving the show from prime time on Saturday to a better time slot on Sunday. It still didn't help that they saddled the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker with plots filled with identity politics and intersectional feminism.
Pregnant.
Why me?
Boys give birth to boys and girls give birth to girls. That's how it is.
Jodie Whittaker also put herself behind the 8 ball.
I'm glad I stopped watching after the 2nd episode.
By disrespecting the audience and admitting she didn't do any research.
The only thing that makes great stories is stories that people can relate to and they feel represented within. To only see TV shows or films from one very specific demographic it's got old.
Yeah.
And so for all of us, it just, it is...
Yeah.
Widow, serve.
After seeing episodes...
Oh, God. Why? Why?
About racism, environmentalism, and
Again.
Donald Trump, the fans had had enough, and that began a ratings decline that would not recover. Doctor Who had most certainly seen its ups and downs, but nothing like this. Just like with Star Trek and Star Wars, a fan revolt began. The BBC ignored the concerns of the fandom. Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall would echo the sentiments of Piers Wenger, the BBC drama controller, who stated that Doctor Who was no longer entertainment, but it was written to create conversations. What makes Doctor Who #1 and a very unique situation is what happened next.
Bullshit.
You can forget that there were any Terminator films after Terminator 2. You can forget about Game of Thrones because the book series maybe that's not a very good point. You can forget that there's any Star Trek after 2005. And
He's about to go over the Timeless Child, isn't he?
After Return of the Jedi. What Doctor Who fans can't forget is the Timeless Children.
Oh, the worst retcon ever.
In a voiceover montage lasting a few short minutes, the Doctor was no longer a Time Lord from Gallifrey, and William Hartnell was no longer the first Doctor.
The stupidest retcon in any franchise history.
What? If you could bring any character back on the show, who would it be and why?
I'd bring back William Hartnell, who played the first Doctor in 1963.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
I'd bring him back and go, look at this! Look, still going!
Yeah.
We're all still here. Is he here?
I'm going to have a go at drawing the first Doctor here. This is William Hartnell.
William
He
Hartnell.
was strange and
That's actually not
nippy,
that bad of a drawing.
And when I was a child, I absolutely loved him. He was and is Doctor Who.
Now the first Doctor
Then they
was
ruined
a
it.
black girl abandoned at a portal who would later pleasantly fall to her death. After having a very diverse regeneration, she would have more very diverse regenerations, through being murdered repeatedly by her scientist explorer adopted mother, who would culturally appropriate her powers and use it to invent the Time Lords. After that, the show was broken. R.I.P. Doctor Who started to trend.
Yeah.
And in a shortened season, due to an unspecified virus from an unspecified origin, the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall, were given the boot. Oh, correction. Decided to leave, and the BBC were forced to relinquish control of the series they had for almost 6.
Sony officially acquires Doctor Who Series 14, produced by Bad Wolf. Honestly, it's probably better in Sony's hands at this point, considering what the BBC did.
And Jodie Whittaker, who started her reign as the first female Doctor, would end it in an era where we can't define a female.
It's going to be I'm officially done. Bye, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
There you have it, the top 5 murdered blockbuster franchises. 5 beloved franchises woven into the tapestry of our modern mythology. Assassinated by the usual suspects: greed, hubris, and ego, with accomplices that are relatively a new phenomenon in entertainment. Corporatism, intersectional feminism, identity politics, and activism, all leading to taking the stories we love that brought us together and turning them into tools of division so they can be unceremoniously sacrificed on the altar of agenda. Did you agree with our list? Please tell us in the comments.
I definitely
section
did,
below.
actually.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, I definitely did. So yeah, nope, that was pretty on point, very on point for what I agree with. I was like, man, Terminator, yes. Game of Thrones, haven't really watched it, but from what I've seen from the fans' reactions of the series, I'd say probably yes. So can't say much on that part because I haven't really watched it. So I agree with that. I almost forgot. Star Trek, yes. From what I've seen a little bit of, I mean, I've seen some of the other clips of shows, but I was like, ugh. But definitely after what he told me, he's like, yeah, oh, definitely, yes. Like I said, I only watched the 2000s trilogy, so that's the only thing I've seen. Especially, oh man, they did Patrick Stewart's character really dirty. Poor Picard. So, I'd say definitely yes to that. Star Wars, definitely yes. Don't even get me started on the shows. Don't even get me started on those. And I was thinking, what was killed more than Star Wars? Oh, Doctor Who. I was like, that makes sense. Yep. I can definitely agree with that then. Yeah, safe to say, I definitely agree with all these picks. A lot. Oh, man. Let me check the comment section real quick to see what it was like. May all these franchises rest in peace, and may new IPs from independent and fresh minds arise from the ashes to destroy the very feet that ruined what came before. True. I hope that does happen. If I can get out there, I'll try to do that. Yeah. It's just sad to see what happened to Doctor Who. You see how the actors who play Doctor Who have such respect for their origins. They know the importance of the torch that was passed to them. And if we live in an age where you need literally to see yourself in a character, either in race or gender, in order to relate or feel like you could be that character, then the age of heroes and brave stories is over. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. The point of these heroes and stories was never the diversity, their inclusiveness, or the representation. Every culture has their own stories to draw inspiration from, to see the diversity. The point of these heroes and brave stories was that inside the hero, there was always being told through the story. A type of storytelling which no longer exists, which is also very true nowadays, unfortunately. Inward leading out rather than outward leading nowhere. I agree with that very heavily as well. Just looking for a few more comments. Back to the Future was the only single soul franchise from the past generation that wasn't ruined in the current time, has remained it perfectly intact. That is also true. Fingers crossed that actually it stays that way. Yeah. Man, I don't want to make it longer than it is, but overall, I definitely do agree with Nerdrotic on these things. So that is how the entertainment industry has been ruined by everything he's mentioned for the reasons in this video. I wish it hasn't. That's what I mean. Our culture has changed a lot, where it's gone. We're progressing forward and backwards at the same time, and it's very annoying because from all these things, you're causing more divide, in my opinion, with fandoms and such. And then Some, not all. I know there are some that agree wholeheartedly, like, this is shit, let's get out of here. But there are some that, you know, agree, half agree and half don't agree, and it's like, that causes a divide, unfortunately. Which is a thing nowadays, and I hate it. I wish it wasn't like this, but I'm 50-50 in how the future of fandoms in geek culture and for franchises in the entertainment industry. Like I said, these 5 are basically murdered. I don't know if they'll fully recover. Star Wars? Maybe. I'm not sure if it's not possible, but maybe. But in any case. But, yeah. That's all I have to really say, really. So I just wanted to check this out. I mean, it's definitely true. He really made some good points and brought up everything that was very true about these franchises and the reason they were murdered. And I totally agree with him. Like I said, I always agree with Nerdrotic on his takes, but definitely agree with these ones. But yeah. But I'm curious, for anyone who's watching this, and anyone who's seen this, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm a little bit curious for anyone who's watching for these takes. I mean, I agree with them all. I know some may not agree because that should be okay. I mean, there's always the path of agreeing and disagreeing, and unfortunately, too much of that nowadays can result without you trying to shoot at each other. But anyways, like I said, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like this video, if you like this reaction, and subscribe for more, because I will be doing more reactions in the future. Even though I have an inconsistent schedule, but I will be doing more, so tune in for that. And please subscribe. But in any case, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching again, and until next time, I'm out.